Hey, everybody. So things are moving really fast right now since Trump ordered that bombing attack on Iran. And you've probably noticed I'm not a journalist and I don't have a staff around here. So I don't even try to offer like up to the minute news in situations like this. So I waited a couple of days through the weekend before, I make these comments here. And my feelings on Donald Trump and his MAGA movement, the fact that I believe he's a cruel and abusive president, none of those feelings are changed by his actions in Iran. I don't think less of him because that would be impossible. And nothing that he did through all of this makes me think any more highly of him either, even if we get lucky and things turn out well in the end. He did kind of what I would expect him to do, which was he acted in a really chaotic manner, and he sort of lied through all of it to the world and to the people that he was negotiating with, supposedly, and to the American people. And his fans are going to call that, strategery or whatever, the art of the deal. And I think it degrades the confidence that the world will have in American leadership if he just continues to keep lying like that. But what I would say is that in this one part of the world where I think everyone can agree that risky actions can lead to a huge array of unintended consequences, I think he went about this in about the most chaotic manner possible. And I do think he might come out ahead in the end, and I hope he does. So that's my main point. But my starting point is what Jonathan B. Last said the night of the attack. He said, "A smart and evil man manipulated a stupid and evil man into a war against a fanatical and evil regime." And I think that's a good take on it. And given the amount of firepower that Trump has at his disposal, I think it might work out just fine. He's got this huge army, and a huge army gives you a lot of room to maneuver, so at least in the short term, it might work out fine. Things could go well, or they could go poorly. But as an American, as a Christian, as a human being, I do want to see this whole situation de-escalate. And I don't want to see our country drawn into a wider war with Iran. So as of just a few minutes ago, it looks like a lot of experts are saying that things are going pretty good right now because Iran launched a bunch of missiles at an American air base, and the U.S. shot those missiles down. And the reason they're saying that's pretty good is because it seems like Iran apparently went through their intermediaries in Qatar to warn the U.S. that the missiles were coming. So it might be that Iran has chosen to de-escalate the situation by doing a face-saving attack on U.S. soldiers, but doing it in such a way that hopefully no U.S. soldiers would be killed or injured. And it might be that that's all that they'll do. And as of this moment, it seems like the world thinks that might be the way this ends up because oil prices are coming down. So the world apparently believes the U.S. and Iran are not going to be going into a deeper war, at least for now. But again, all this is changing fast, and who knows where it's going to lead. So I don't make predictions, and I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I have a few principles, though, that I tend to talk about. And so, as you know, I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. And I'm committed throughout all of this to continue working against his destructive and abusive policies. And lately, for example, I've talked quite a bit about his cruelty towards immigrants. So I don't want to fall into a certain trap, though, that I think people like myself, if I'm not careful, could fall into. And the trap is this: I don't want to find myself hoping that Trump somehow gets embarrassed by the choices he's making in Iran or anywhere else like that. Because if something happens that embarrasses Trump, what that would mean is that something much worse has to happen to a lot of innocent people because of his decisions. If this goes badly for Trump, it'll mean that his decision to bomb Iran has resulted in unnecessary death and destruction, maybe to our own soldiers, and certainly to innocent people in other countries. So I'm going to do something here that I rarely do, because usually when people say this sort of thing, I find it to be manipulative, a way to get people to stop criticizing leaders who ought to be criticized. But I'm going to say this here, that I think this is a good time to remember a passage like 1 Timothy 2, 1 and 2, where Paul writes, I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind here, an important thing to do if you're a Christian. So I'm never going to stop opposing Trump, and I'm never going to stop trying to convince Christians to abandon the MAGA movement and to abandon all forms of Christian nationalism. But I think that this is exactly the sort of situation Paul might have been talking about. I mean, he wrote that passage in the context of persecution, and in a context where some really evil rulers had, I think, far more political power than Donald Trump has. And in that context, Paul asked for prayers for those leaders. Not that they would continue to rule unquestioned or anything like that, but that the decisions that they make would allow for peaceful and quiet lives. So I hope that Trump's mission in Iran succeeds, even though I don't know exactly what success looks like in this situation. I'm not sure it's been defined. But now bear in mind, I do know that he pulled out of that Iran nuclear deal unilaterally that existed for a long time. And when he did that, he sent a message to Iran that America can't be trusted to keep our word. I know all of this. And Iran has been developing its nuclear program ever since. But we're here, no matter how we got here. And it's worth talking about how we got here, but I'm saying in this video, where I'm saying I don't want a failure that costs innocent people's lives. I just want to say I know how we got here, and I don't want a failure. Because if it's a failure, that means that a lot of innocent people are going to get hurt. So I'm probably going to have a lot to say about this in the coming weeks, a lot of really critical things to say about how Donald Trump got us here. But for today, I just want to say this, and I want to say nothing that I'm going to say is going to depend on the results of Trump's actions. I think he made a lot of choices that ought to be criticized no matter how they turn out. So I'm going to focus on the principles behind all of that, and I'm going to hope and pray that this does all work out. And I'm not going to let any of this, though, distract me from the main work that I'm doing here on this channel. I care about the sort of country that Trump and his people are creating for my kids and my grandkids, and the sort of world that they're contributing to. And I'm appalled on every level by what I see every day. So honestly, I do hope that Iran's nuclear program is destroyed. I think that would be a good thing in the world, even though I doubt that could be pulled off in that one night. But I'm going to stay open-minded. In the coming days, I'll hear what the experts say as more information comes out. I do hope Israel stops its war in Iran, because every day that it goes on, it has the potential to turn into something much larger and much worse. I do hope that Iran's objectively evil regime falls. But I have listened to some experts talk about this, and it sounds like people in Iran say it would be much better if the Iranian people continued to work for regime change from within in a manner that could lead to leadership that most Iranians can get behind, instead of having regime change happen in this chaotic and dangerous way, sort of imposed from the outside. So, I mean, it would be great if that happened. I think the Iranian people deserve a better regime, one that they have some say in. The problem is, none of those things are certain to happen. And in fact, most of those things are very uncertain. And a lot of risk goes into all of these decisions. And the United States right now is being led by a man who objectively acts chaotically. He lies about his intentions and his actions. He lies about the results of his actions. like when he declared that the Iranian nuclear program is entirely obliterated, it's over, long before anyone could truly make that kind of assessment. And we're being led by a man that the world sees as very manipulable. So all of these things are dangerous, but yet I do hope, given all of that, that these things that I just said do happen, that we do see peace in that region. And if that means that the worst man in America, who is a demagogue, who does destroy the peace of our nation as a political strategy, if it means if all of this happens in a way that brings peace to that region, then if the worst man in America wins a Nobel Peace Prize because he pushed the right button, I'm fine. I mean, that's a small, ridiculous, irritating price to pay. And on the day that he accepts the prize, I'm still going to be telling anyone who listens that he's a danger to the nation, that his movement is destroying everything that I find beautiful about our country, and that every day that Christians support him and make excuses for him, they become a little bit more like him, and that's disturbing. So thanks for listening.